everyone, I'm back. I'm Samantha and I'm a therapist. I'm creating a video every day for a year. This is video 310. Thanks so much for watching and listening. And we are on day 4 of Countdown to Riches, 21 Days of Wealth Attracting Habits by Rhonda Byrne. Grab the book if you'd like. It's just such a little fun book. So today is day 4. It is I Want Day. And the quote that starts this chapter out is, "The great secret of getting what you want from life is to know what you want and believe you can have it." Norman Vincent Peale. So we have to believe we can have it, right? So that sounds simple, doesn't it? But some of us have what they call an epidemic. So we're going to read this. This is from The Secret, actually, the book The Secret, another great book that she obviously wrote. So they say that an epidemic worse than any plague that humankind has ever seen has been raging for centuries. It is the don't want epidemic. People keep this epidemic alive when they predominantly think, speak, act, and focus on what they don't want. But this is the generation that will change history because we are receiving the knowledge that can free us of this epidemic. It begins with you, and you can become a pioneer of this new thought movement by simply thinking and speaking about what you want. This is so true. We can actually pioneer this thought movement when you really think about it. Just each one of us individually can have a huge effect on the world just from doing this. There are so many people that say, I don't want this, instead of saying, I do want this. Focusing on what we prefer instead of what we have, and saying, I don't want this. That just, I don't know about you, but it makes me feel heavy when I say, I don't want that. I don't like that. You know, it just feels better when you say, oh, I like that. When you notice something else that you like or something else that you want, it feels lighter. So check your body. Self-awareness is key. It's like know where your thoughts are and notice when you say during the day, I don't like that. I don't want that. I want this instead. I prefer this instead. Always add that on. If you're going to say I don't want something, notice and then say, oh, but I prefer this instead. And notice how you shift from heavy to light just by changing your words. So it really is an epidemic if you think about it. Along with other things, fear, loneliness, there's so many things going on. So we start first with the most simple thing is noticing, am I saying and focusing my energy on what I don't want? So notice that. That's the first part of this. And then she says, let me ask you, do you think and talk more about what you want, or do you think and talk more about what you don't want? Because universal law will manifest either. Do you talk more about the abundance of money you would like to have, or do you talk more about your lack of money? Because universal law will manifest whichever one you talk about the most. Oh, we probably don't talk about abundance as much as we should, right? The should, I say should, but I feel like this is when the word should is used in a good way. We should change the way we think. For you, for us. When you change the way that you think, it changes everything. And when you're aware of where your thoughts are going, it is priceless. It is so valuable to know that, because if you don't know, you're living life without intention. And if you live life with intention, you start to notice things change. You start to change, which changes your external world. So I'll keep going. Do you say, my grocery shopping was ridiculously expensive, or I got a bunch of things today that were discounted? That's a big difference. Do you say, I can't afford to take a vacation, or I want to take a vacation soon and I really want to go to Tahiti? Do you say, my boss won't even consider increasing my salary, or I'm so grateful I got paid today, I really appreciate my job? Do you say, gas prices are insane, or I'm so grateful for how low maintenance my car is? Today, I want you to try to only think and talk about what you want, especially around money, but see if you can do it for everything. This practice is life-changing. The more you can train your mind to focus on what you want, the faster your finances will change. It helps that there's someone you can do this with so you can help each other out if one of you slips up. Otherwise, ask universal law to make you aware anytime you slip up. Say, show me clearly if I think or talk about what I don't want. You can also set an intention. Today, I am going to exclusively focus on and talk about what I want. That's so powerful. If you would only, and here's a reminder, if you would only think and talk about what you want, then that's all that you would get. Really think about that, she says. You know, I say that a lot too. Really think about that. If you would only think and talk about what you want, then that's all that you would get. What if that is true? What if that is true? I think it's true. We don't do that enough, do we? We think about what we don't want. So start thinking about, what do I prefer? how do I prefer to feel? That's the first thing that I always ask myself. How do I want to feel right now? Oh, I don't feel very good. Well, how do I want to feel? I want to feel good. Okay, let's look for a little bit of relief, one little thought at a time, just like 1% better than the thought we just had. So what would that be? And then you just talk yourself out of this. You've talked yourself into feeling bad. So now you just have to talk yourself out of feeling bad and into feeling good. So that's really, I know that sounds so simple. And when you're going through some big things, sometimes this seems like complete, crap. But it's a place to start. It's better than doing nothing, because when you are going through something and you feel powerless, I feel like practices like this really get us feeling a little more powerful than we did a second ago. So it just starts with these little practices. Notice, what do I want? I want day. Okay, so what do I want? I don't want this. I have this currently. What do I want instead? How do I prefer to feel? You're going to shift the energy inside of you, and you're going to start training your mind to notice what is good instead of what is lacking. And so when we're noticing what we're lacking, we get more lack. Try this out on purpose if you have to. Like, look around your life, and if you've got lack going on, then notice the abundance of lack you have going on. As Bashar would say, there's an abundance of lack, so you still have abundance. You're always in abundance. Look at it that way. Isn't that funny? We have an abundance of everything. It's all over the place. So we just have to look for it. We have to be consciously aware of it, because whatever we're conscious and aware of, that's where our energy's flowing. Where focus goes, energy flows. So where are you choosing to place your energy today? And you get to wake up every day and say, okay, today is I want day. When you wake up tomorrow, I want day. Okay, I'm gonna focus on what I want. And also focus on what you already got. Look around and just notice everything. Notice the abundance that you have. I've had clients do this, and they've done it for like a very short amount of time. I had somebody, I know I mentioned this months ago, where somebody visualized manifesting $100,000, and they got it. It was a forgiven loan that they got, like $100K literally forgiven by visualizing. I think it was like 3 days. It was no time. And then another thing happened too, where they got a chunk of money out of seemingly nowhere, And then and then this is a cool little story. Last week I had a session with someone, and they were talking about, wanting to get promoted. And so there's like 3 tiers. There's like salesperson, and then there's manager, and then there's assistant manager. And this person's a salesperson. And so I said, well, what do you want to, I was like, what about being an assistant manager? Well, I'd have to become a manager first, and then I'd, become an ASM. And I was like, well, what if you could skip the step of being a manager and go straight to the assistant manager position? And they're like, well, I don't know, maybe. I was like, well, what if you could? Let's start thinking about it. And so lo and behold, a couple days later, they had an interview for the assistant manager. So they did indeed get to skip the step. This is how this works. It is crazy. So it's really not crazy, but the stories are so cool. I always say crazy. I use that word like too much. I need to change it up a little bit. But it's amazing. It's awesome. It's spectacular. Like, life is spectacular. We just have to notice that it is. When we're focused on what we're lacking, we're going to get more lack. Focus solely, practice this, train your mind to focus solely on what it is that you actually want. And I've heard people say, we always talk about like belief systems, and you just have to believe it to see it and all that kind of stuff. Well, I've also heard, I think it's Neville Goddard, somebody says, you have to know it. Like, you're putting on, like, you're wearing a shirt right now, or your name is Stan. It's like, that that's your name. You're wearing a shirt right now, and you put on a shirt today, most likely. But like, you have to know that this money is coming to you, or this abundance is already here. You're already this person. Like, you just have to know it, like what your name is. And there's a different energy to that. And it takes practice. It's hard for us to believe that, life could be easy and simple and fun and full of love and excitement and joy. Keep that in mind. Like, we're not taught those things. We're not taught to feel those ways all the time. And so it's a new way of thinking. Just like she said in here, we can pioneer a new thought movement That's what we need to do to help heal ourselves and help the world as well. Heal ourselves from illness or, mental or physical illness, whatever it is, to being in debt. If you're in debt, we are slaves to the lender, which means we don't feel freedom. There's something in us when we're in debt and we owe people money. There is almost like an invisible chain that's on us. Chains, plural. Like we've got chains on us. And so you won't even notice it. You're carrying that energy into your marriage every day. You're carrying that energy into your parenting, your job every day. It's just silently there. So think about, what chains do you want to break today? That's going to be a theme, I think, for this channel. What chains are we going to break? Because any of this underlying energy is just silently killing us. It's so stressful. It adds to our chronic stress that we're experiencing. And again, I think the last time I checked, it was 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, which means probably all of them are in debt to some extent. And so we've got to notice this and change our behaviors, change our habits, change our thoughts around money and around abundance and love. Remember, getting into the energy of love will help create more money, more abundance, and it will make you feel good. Because remember, when you get money, I know plenty of people that have gotten millions of dollars. I've never gotten $1 million yet, but I know people that have, and it didn't do much for them. It was just like kind of natural to get it, and or it didn't feel like they thought it would feel when they got it. So I know people that have millions of dollars. It really doesn't make them that happy. It doesn't really change you the way that you think it would. So go ahead and feel like you have it now. Like, what would it feel like? Daydream about it. Because by the time you feel so good and you're in your element and you start having all these opportunities that come to you out of nowhere because your energy shifted, things are going to change so much that million will come, or that 5 million will come, or that 10 million. And it'll be like, oh yeah, this is normal for me. So money will not make us happy. It does give us choices, but we have choices right now. You got to recognize what freedom do you already have? We want money because we want freedom. So it's like, look around you now at the abundance of freedom you already have, just from being able to decide when you go to sleep and decide when you wake up, for the most part. You know what I mean? It's like, you could not go to work, I guess, tomorrow. You could call in sick maybe, or you could decide not to eat lunch tomorrow, or to eat dinner at 5 o'clock if you really wanted to, or eat a snack at 3 o'clock. There's these little tiny things that you could decide to do. You could decide to meditate for 5 minutes instead of getting on Instagram for those 5 minutes. I mean, we've got little pockets of things during the day, which I could probably give you 100 more if I could think of some. But notice what pockets you have during the day too, and you can just decide to do something different. Maybe you spend $5 a day. Well, maybe you decide not to do that for a week. Save that money up, put it on a credit card that you owe, or put it in a savings account. And notice at the end of the month, wow, I've got an extra $100 here that seemingly came out of nowhere, but I just kind of decided to do something different. And it's not about restriction always. It's about, I'm going to change these habits for myself so I can start to show myself that I can trust myself again with money. We've got a relationship with money that's not so good in this country. So money is just an energy relationship. We're all energy. Everything is energy. So look at your relationships too. And this is something I really want to talk about in depth in a bunch of videos moving forward, is relationships and how our relationships are affected by the way we spend money and the way we see ourselves. So we'll be diving into that stuff too later, diving real deep into that. So if you're interested, stay tuned for that. And more money stuff too coming up. And I also got this book. I've had this for a while, but I haven't read the whole thing, and I'm sad I haven't read it because it is such a good book so far, what I've read. But it's The Master Key System by Charles Haanel. That's a good one. That's a really good one. I'd like to teach out of this one too. So we'll just keep going and going. But we're gonna do day 5 tomorrow of this challenge, of this countdown. So let me know below if anything has happened, or if you're having fun with this, or if you have any suggestions. Let me know. I'm open to anything you guys suggest. So please let me know if anything comes up for you. I'd be curious to hear. And yes, thank you so much for listening. As always, thank you for all of my subscribers. You guys are amazing. Please like and subscribe if you're new. I'd love to have you with me throughout this journey of creation that I'm keeping going. And remember, you're so loved, and remember to appreciate yourself, because what you appreciate appreciates. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.